Okay, welcome to the final project presentation for ABUS 4101 Group D. The project we are doing is on Nestle backpacks, which you'll hear more about in a second. So I'm going to turn the project presentation over to Will Racky, who's going to intro the product, and then we'll go through the different cost mechanisms and analysis that we have.
Okay, so Nestle Packs is a startup. It was started in September at the University of Minnesota by a couple seniors. It is the first backpack ever created specifically for kids with sensory processing disorders. They recently completed a Kickstarter that raised 350% of their goal, which was $10,000, and ended up with over $35,000. Right now, they're transitioning into a long-term business plan, so they currently don't have a cost structure, and have primarily, to this point, sold only through Kickstarter, and as a result, are in a very transitional phase with no long-term plan. Next slide, thank you. Their product right now, they have one product that is only being sold through the Kickstarter, the Nestle Pack. Its value proposition is featured around three main core items: comfortability, customizability, and durability. Comfortability, it has patented hugging straps that create compression and mimic a weighted vest for kids with autism that keep them calm. Customizability includes clips and rings to attach toys and sensory tools to help kids feel comfortable. And lastly, the durability is many kids with sensory processing disorders often drag their backpacks and wear through them very quickly. So parts of the backpack feature very tough material. Right now there is only one size, currently developing a second size, and it's available in 3 colors. Go. Okay. Cost assignment process. Right now, their direct costs are just coming from production from the producer. It's done off-site in Clarissa, Minnesota by Battle Lake Outdoors. They just purchase and resell them. They don't have any insight really into the creation or cost of the goods being made. Even their general costs, such as selling and marketing, are put into a large overhead pool. They're not distributed or allocated among items at all because it is a new company, and the indirect and direct costs even have not yet been separated for analysis.
Okay, so the cost assignment process. This is Todd Mandel. So the cost assignment process at this point is fairly mature. As you heard Will explain, it's a new company, so they haven't really set up overhead pools, resource pools, or anything that would allow them to kind of differentiate what are their fixed costs or variable costs, as well as manufacturing overhead versus like S&A overhead. And so when you plot that out on a flow chart, it's pretty straightforward, right? The costs are coming in as a product from the vendor, and that's really their cost of goods sold. And then everything else is right now dumped into one giant overhead pool. And later on in one of the slides, you're going to see how those costs currently are being processed. But basically, you're getting a gross revenue number, and then that gross revenue number is paying for all of the overhead, fixed and variable costs. And then that result is coming up with your net operating income. It's going to be a challenge for the company because, as we'll see later, that variable costs, as production ramps up, could potentially impact their profitability. And one other challenge that's going to eventually perhaps come up is that the company has already set their pricing, and so if they need to dramatically adjust their pricing because of variable costing, that could cause a backlash in some of their customer base. However, they are a new company. As you just heard, they mainly sell through Kickstarter, and so they don't have this large customer base that's out there that has an expectation of price yet. So if there is a time to make these adjustments, and changes, now is likely that time.
So as of right now, a lot of the systematic weaknesses within the company are really related to it being still in the infancy stage. As a result, so is the cost system. Uh, One of the weaknesses is that right now they're really kind of in the dark when it comes to the cost of the vendor. It's really hard to tell if they're paying for a fair price for each unit or not. The vendor controls both materials acquisition and labor, which makes it so Nestle Packs cannot capture any savings or control have any control over the material supply chain. Uh, they also don't really have a breakdown in their overhead costs. There's no further allocation of expenses, and indirect and direct costs are mixed, and the fixed and variable costs are mixed. The impact of these weaknesses, it makes it very hard to reduce or takes away their ability altogether to reduce production costs. There's little to no control of cost of goods sold. Makes it unsure of whether fair cost is being applied during the production, and it results in a higher price backpack or a smaller profit margin for Nestle Packs. This overall, it makes it unable to understand the cost of increased production and sales, which subjects them to higher risk of selling backpacks below break even.
Okay, the redesign system. First, we work on our redesign system with the product cost. It includes direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. If any product has not been sold, will be recorded as an inventory asset, and it is charged to cost of goods sold as soon as the product is sold. On this on this product, we focus on the impact of a product, which means our main focus is on the direct material cost of a product. Since our product is a short-term production, we use the product cost method to remove the overhead component, which help us on sale price decisions. For the variable cost, we have wage of staff directly attributable to fulfillment and sale. Sale costs directly attributable to each product are also assigned as variable in the system. In this company, it has a high proportions of variable costs. With a high proportion of variable costs, there are few fixed costs that must be paid in each accounting period, but it can help us generate a profit at a relatively low sale level. Next. The redesigned system flowchart, as you can see, it is very simple because we want to make it look simple. We have a direct material, direct labor, manufacturing overhead, going to job costs, and then finished goods, and then lastly, the cost of goods sold. It looks simple, yes, but it provides a better system than the current one. The company can understand the actual cost of one unit and also computing break-even once production ramps up. It brings a variable cost of real overhead that are currently not considered variable and the only accounted for is fixed costs.
So in the current system, it fails to account for for a bunch of the fixed costs and any of the variable costs. The net operating income appears positive when production increases to 5,000 units, but without accounting for the variable cost, the company could potentially lose money instead of making money, which of course is their intention. This new system also shows the impact of fixed costs. Reducing the fixed costs dramatically help profitability with the current production levels. Another thing that was failed to account for in terms of fixed costs was the employee income, which is very important. Next slide, please. So, some of the fixed costs were now being assigned to variable production costs to reflect the wages that are now being paid to employees. Some of these employees are performing direct labor in some fashion, so in the current system, those are fixed. That hides the fact that more units are sold, so there is more work to be done. Some costs are also now assigned to variable production costs. These costs will also scale with production. Failing to account for them will result in the loss of profit, which will be less than what it was originally forecasted. And when production is finally increased, this will mean that there will be increased cost in the variable cost area.
So to kind of take a wrap up basically what the presentation has covered, NestlePaks, as we explained, is a brand new company, and it just had a successful Kickstarter. It's got a lot of energy. It's got a team that's very excited about their product. They face the challenge of converting this one-time funded startup into an ongoing business, and that's really that's their intent and that's their goal. What we discussed in the last slide and the slide before it, which are important to note, is that right now all the losses are on paper. So if you were to look at their financials, you would see a profitable company, but that is largely because none of the staff are taking any wages out of the company yet. So once that happens, those wages are either going to be a fixed or a variable cost. Some of that is variable, and it's important to note how much of it is variable, because the more this takes off, the more this product is produced, the greater that variable work becomes, and the more you have to pay to do it. So solid cost accounting is really going to be critical to the success of the company, getting those costs in the right place. Also, the ability to control their direct labor and direct material costs will allow them to kind of move the levers a little bit more to ensure profitability. As we discussed, the company's not paying its founders or employees. The numbers that you saw on the chart before are predicated on $15,000 for each of this per year for each of the 6 employees. Obviously, that's not a very big number. It's not a sustainable number, but it's a starting point to at least project forward. Really, moving through all of this is the fact that managerial accounting is about looking forward, predicting what's going to happen, or at least looking at scenarios of what's going to happen so that management can make decisions about what direction they want to take the company in. In looking at how NestlePaks is setting up their books, it would be our recommendation that they really should look at variable accounting closely, because what would be unfortunate is for them to take off, suddenly be producing 20,000 backpacks a year, but actually losing, say, even $1 per backpack. Or worse yet, say $20 per backpack, because now they're going to have to raise their prices by 20 or 30%, and you're going to end up with a disaffected client base. You're going to lose your trust and squander kind of this opportunity. But if you structure it correctly, they would be able to come out of the gate making money in every backpack, possibly figure out a way to reduce some of their fixed costs, and then even increase their profitability even more to be able to reinvest back into the company. So NestlePaks is an important juncture. It's got some critical decisions to make. The product is neat. It fills a need and a niche in the market. All you have to do is take 5 minutes looking through their Kickstarter page, like I did, and to see the passion behind their customer base and how happy the parents and the families and the caregivers and the supporters of these children with autism are for this product. But in order to keep solving that problem for those people, which is what entrepreneurs do, they have to make sure that their model is financially successful in an ongoing basis. With that, we thank you for your time. That's the conclusion of our presentation.